Hello, this is Wes Bridle, and this is another Kingdom Calling Economic Update video. This is the fifth of 5 that I'm doing today, and we're going to focus on gold and silver and what's been happening over the last few months. Gold in 2010 was up, I believe, somewhere around 30%, silver around 80%. So if you watched the Coming Storm video that we put out about a year ago, you've been invested or saved in those things, and you're doing extremely well. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend that you watch it, because you'll see that what we talked about a year ago, many of the things we talked about have already happened over the course of the last year. However, many of the big picture things that we talked about haven't happened yet. There still is time to prepare. If you wait until these things become obvious, it's going to be a little bit too late for you. So I highly recommend you watch that. You can watch it for free. There's a link right next to this video. I'm going to jump in and just give you a few items on what's been going on in gold and silver over the last couple months. There's now evidence that China is hoarding silver in addition to gold. I think they're the third biggest producer in the world, and their exports have plunged 60%. So they're keeping that in storage. The CFTC refused to set commodity position limits that Congress required. Part of the Dodd-Frank bill that was passed a few months back said that there needed to be commodity position limits, and that was by some date in January that's already passed, and they just didn't do it. Now, Bart Chilton, who's one of the commissioners there, has said there's fraud going on in one of the markets. It's obviously silver, but still they won't move forward. So it's kind of interesting. We talked in one of the other videos, the Federal Reserve is not doing what the courts are ordering them to do. Here you have the Commodity Future Trade Commission not doing what Congress has ordered them to do. So you have all these rogue areas of our government that are just refusing to do what the people demand, breaking our laws. It's kind of a scary thing. It'll be interesting to see. They're still talking about these things, so it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Whether or not they do anything, the market is acting. The silver is getting extremely hard to get a hold of. The Perth Mint recently said that anytime gold goes below $1,400, it's extremely hard for them to produce what is demanded by the market. And again, silver is the worst there. South Korea is moving into gold. Iran has now 15% of their reserves in gold. Sprott, who's a brilliant investor in Canada, they came out with a Sprott Silver Trust, and they just wanted to buy silver. It took them 2.5 months to get all the silver that they bought. So today it's still easy for you to go out and buy a little silver, but because they had, I don't remember the number, I could be wildly off, but something like $30 million worth of silver, or maybe 30 million ounces of silver. I don't remember, but it was a large amount of silver that most people aren't going to be buying. But if you have that kind of money, they couldn't get a hold of what they were trying to get a hold of for 2.5 months. So it shows you how tight the numbers are out there. I think Bullion Vault in it's Germany or all of Europe has told their clients that they just can't get a hold of the silver that people are demanding anymore, so to get that somewhere else. The COMEX inventories are super low. There's just not enough silver out there. There's not as much gold or silver as is being traded in the paper markets. It just, as far as real gold and silver, doesn't exist, particularly silver. So if you think that you own one of those two things because it shows up on your brokerage statement, I highly recommend that you look into what you really own, because you might just own nothing. Multiple lawsuits have come out against JP Morgan and HSBC about the manipulation going on in the silver market. Several people reported through King World News, and I think one was through James Turk, and I'm not sure the other, but there are quite a few stories out there of people who have been paying storage fees for years to hold their gold or silver in Swiss bank accounts. And they have recently been hearing about the shortages, so they decided, you know what, I want to get my hands on that gold or silver. And the Swiss banks couldn't produce it. They were delaying, and these people had to start threatening that they would go public on the fact that they couldn't get it. Now keep in mind, they've been paying storage for years to hold this there, but the banks didn't really have it, apparently. Otherwise, why would they not give it to them? And it looks like the banks had to go scrambling in order to deliver the gold or silver that the people were owed. Again, there's massive physical shortages out there. Let's see. The judge recently ordered in GATA's lawsuits. Judge recently ordered the Federal Reserve to allow her to see their gold swap records. So that's really fascinating. That's just kind of a new event. So we'll see what comes of that. But finally making the Federal Reserve start to show at least a little bit of what's going on, what they're doing with our gold. And finally, it's at historical peaks. The gold and silver market typically makes up about 25% of financial assets. Today they're around 1%. So when you hear that these things are in a bubble, we're really anywhere near that. If the world assets like real estate, stocks, bonds were to crater in value by 80%, and meanwhile gold and silver values were to go up 5 times, well then maybe we'd reach that historical level. I don't know what will happen. Maybe everything, because of inflation, all the numbers are going up in the long run, but whenever we reach that peak, that's the sort of peak that we usually see. Gold and silver and the related investments are worth about 25% of financial assets, not 1%. 1% is not a bubble. 1% is a tiny fraction. What we're seeing is a mega shift in world economics right now, and we're really only at the beginning of this. Again, if you haven't seen the Coming Storm video, you need to go watch it. There's a link to see that for free here. If you have any questions or anything, shoot me a line. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and God bless you.